Community-centered, community-supported. Alaska Public Media. Alaska Insight is supported in part by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by viewers just like you. Thank you.
Being a parent and providing for a family is a lot of work. For rural parents, subsistence harvest needs can be challenged by a lack of quality childcare, especially during seasonal activities.
The elementary age students, I think, really appreciate, and the parents and families, opportunities for the kids to do things. And with school being out, the summer is a really nice time to make sure these events are available.
A program aimed at providing learning materials for young children supports training for parents and quality care for kids. What else is needed for rural childcare? We'll discuss it right now on Alaska Insight. Good evening. Tonight, we'll learn about an Alaska school district's move to a calendar based on the seasonal needs for subsistence hunting and gathering and the education and connection to family that it aims to provide. We'll hear about materials available through PBS and Alaska Public Media to help families access quality educational activities, and we'll take a deeper look at the challenges in providing affordable childcare in rural Alaska. But before we get to that discussion, here are some of the top stories of the week from Alaska Public Media's collaborative statewide news network. Hundreds of students in the Matanuska-Susitna Borough School District walked out of class Tuesday morning to protest recent actions by the local school board, including limiting participation of the student representative on the board and the removal of books from library shelves for review. According to organizers, 7 schools saw walkouts, at least 3 of which included more than 100 students. Organizers also say the protests were intentionally held just a week before the local Mat-Su election, which includes 2 school board seats. No particular candidates were the focus of the protests. Juneau's South Seward Street has been officially renamed Heritage Way. The sign was changed on Wednesday after the Juneau Assembly unanimously agreed to support it last May. Seward Street's namesake, William Seward, was the Secretary of State when the U.S. bought unceded Alaska Native land from Russia. According to Sealaska Heritage Institute President Rosita Worrell, Seward referred to Indigenous people as uncivilized and savages. Worrell, who initially proposed the change, said it's one step in reclaiming history. Alaska U.S. Senator Dan Sullivan launched a dramatic political maneuver against a fellow Republican on the Senate floor on Wednesday as he tried to break Senator Tommy Tuberville's hold on hundreds of military promotions that require unanimous Senate consent. Since February, Senator Tuberville has single-handedly blocked 376 promotions, citing his opposition to a Department of Defense policy he opposes related to abortion access. Sullivan, who also opposes the policy, says Tuberville is doing damage to the military and punishing officers who have nothing to do with the policy. Despite the attempt from Sullivan and several other Republicans, Tuberville's blocking of promotions remains in place. You can find the full versions of these and many more stories on our website, alaskapublic.org, or by downloading the Alaska Public Media app on your phone. Now on to our discussion for this evening. There's a lack of quality childcare across our state, but especially so in rural Alaska. Not to toot our own horn too much, but we'd like to tell you about the materials Alaska Public Media's Education Department and our PBS partners provide for learning activities for family and childcare providers. Earlier this year, as part of that program, 3 communities in Southeast Alaska hosted family workshops and summer camps focused on social and emotional learning. Alaska Public Media's Valerie Lake brings us the story.
It's midsummer in Hoona, Alaska, and school is out for the year. At low tide, Amelia Wilson fires up her new skiff to check her neighbor's crab pots.
We have a saying that if the tide is out, the table is set.
All seasons are busy for people who depend on subsistence, and summer is no exception.
Very busy in the summers and lots to do.
For Hoona's youngest residents, some subsistence activities won't be safe for them to learn until they're a little older. Many families rely on places like community centers and boys and girls clubs for safe, inexpensive childcare.
Our teenagers are really busy. Most of them are working and involved even in the school year during a lot of extracurricular activities, and the elementary age students, I think, really appreciate, and the parents and families, opportunities for the kids to do things.
Did it just explode in your hand?
For Gina Wooten, growing up in Cake, Alaska, the Boys and Girls Club was a refuge from an unpredictable home life.
They had very nutritious food for us to eat, lots of fun activities, and the staff are very engaging, and that's what I want to be for the youth here.
We will give you guys all one book for each family.
I want them to know that I'm here for them, not only just as a staff member, but if they need to talk.
You guys will be coming up with what kind of problems Mars will have.
Gina and her coworker Zach are responsible for supervising sometimes dozens of kids at this Boys and Girls Club. But resources and professional training are limited. That's why Cake and Hoona were selected to take part in a PBS educational experience called Train the Trainer.
You guys have some good stories.
It was a wonderful opportunity to share PBS curriculum with them and provide resources that then they can in turn use to share with families and children in their communities.
The program emphasizes the importance of social and emotional learning for parents and guardians so they can better navigate emotional moments with their children. The hope is that these lessons can be shared with others in the community.
We did a lot of talking with parents about being aware of your own state of mind and how to just be in charge of that in order to move forward to be a good parent.
There are some universal truths of being a parent. It's hard, it's really busy, it's nonstop, you're always on duty. And so what can I do to just breathe a little bit and have some fun with my kids? And that's what it's designed to do.
While the parents and caregivers received professional training,
That's my house and that's me.
Alaska Public Media provided free food, childcare, and educational activities connected to PBS Kids shows.
Third place goes to Team E.
After the workshops, each community keeps the educational resources, books, and games so they can continue hosting camps and workshops on their own into the future. In Southeast Alaska, I'm Valerie Lake.
Joining me tonight from Tuluksak is Kery Delsignore. Kery is the Principal and Special Education Director for the Tuluksak School. And from Nome, Bridie Trainor is with us. Bridie is the Child Care Director for Kawerak, the nonprofit tribal organization in the Bering Straits region. Thanks, both of you, for being with us this evening.
Thank you.
Kery, I want to start with you. We know how important child care is for not just a place to park kids, but for emotional well-being and an introduction to structured learning. It's difficult everywhere or anywhere, but in very small communities like Tuluksak, what are the other layers of consideration, and what is the child care situation there currently? You have under 300 people in your community, is that right?
We have a small community, and one of the big challenges we face is that the housing does not have running water or sewer, and most of the houses are multi-generational houses that sometimes have 10, 15 people living in them, and there are not a lot of places real conducive to offering daycare, even if it's within the home. Home daycares can't be set up. There's no place to provide safe daycare other than at the school, which is one of the only buildings in the village with running water and sewer and access to reliable electricity.
Are older kids often called on to take care of youngsters, and how does that create hardship for them?
We do. We often have parents call up and ask that we have some of our high schoolers go home and watch the babies if they've got to go out. We have one laundromat in town, and if someone's name comes up, a lot of times people, need daycare for those infants while they go and take care of doing laundry or other chores. And so, yes, that does create a problem.
And how has adapting a new type of school calendar based on subsistence harvesting and those rhythms, how has that helped in this regard?
We've seen an increase in our attendance. That's helped a lot. We want to honor families' need to go out and subsistence hunt and gather. And in our communities, they even take their young children out to the fish camps. And that was something where we found that our students just weren't attending school. And so by changing our calendar to meet the needs of our community and the activities that they take part in, our attendance has come up. We've also found that we have more people willing to come into the school and share the activities that they've taken part in. We really look for that full community educator model for our schools, and so the subsistence calendar has been really helpful with that. That hasn't solved all of the problems with childcare, though.
Of course, but have you heard from other school districts? Are they interested in considering adopting what you've put in place?
We do, and we need to be very transparent. This really Lake and Penn school district came up with this several years ago, and we looked at it and said this is a model that might work for us. And since we've put this in place, we have been contacted by multiple school districts who said, you know, we're facing the same issues where families are needing to get their nets ready, in the spring to get ready for fishing season, or they're needing to finish up moose hunting, berry picking. So yes.
Bridie, I want to turn to you now. Thank you for your patience. Describe for us the difficulty for rural child care providers in getting licensed. What could help lower barriers to that?
Well, I think just the facilities, the home construction, plumbing, heating, the administrative barriers associated with just going through the process to become licensed are some of the main issues. So just being more practical and flexible and finding ways to meet providers where they're at. You know, it's not always a career ladder. People want to go through the training that's required. It may be a new parent who wants to be home with a kid and bring new children into the home. So just to look where childcare naturally happens and to work with what's there.
You've said, Bridie, that you think government needs to be involved in helping to support childcare. Talk about why it's so difficult for the private sector to make this work in a way that's affordable.
Well, it's largely a private sector business model because meaning parents and businesses provide most of the funding, but the true cost of care is more than either parents or businesses can afford. There's more room for private partnership, but it really needs to be a lot more public investment to work. It's just too expensive for families. You have salary and benefits, utilities, food, facilities maintenance, insurance, supplies. Providers haven't been charging the true cost of care to parents because they know they can't afford it. And in rural Alaska, that is, much higher than on the road system. So one way to reduce the cost would be to have more accessible options for licensed care.
Looking at the Kawerak website, the organization is trying to find substitute Head Start teachers. People with a bachelor's degree can make up to $62 an hour. With a high school diploma, they can make nearly $38 an hour. That's not a low rate. Is it still hard to fill these positions, even with those good wages being offered?
Those are temporary kind of emergency wages, and a lot of administrators are finding themselves in the classroom happily. But childcare is a tough job, so we really need to support providers and in having a meaningful wage.
Mm-hmm.
I think, research has shown that people are back to work at pre-COVID levels. There are a lot more employment options now, so childcare needs to be competitive in order to attract providers.
Are you still struggling to fill those positions?
Yes, a lot of sites are not at capacity because they don't have enough providers, meaning if they did have more financial support, they would be able to increase wages and benefits and paid time off. And then you could have more providers, and then you could open more classrooms and have more room for parents, more options.
Kery, turning back to you, if a Tuluksak resident wants to be a care provider, what is that process? What funding is available to support that, and how would that work?
Currently, what we're trying to do is partner with AVCP here and use them to help provide funding for our parents. We've asked that the parents try to work with the community and the tribe to find someone in the community who's willing to be the care provider. And if the parents agree with that, they can agree to hire that person, work with AVCP, who will in turn pay for that child care. We're just looking for any alternatives. We realize that most of our staff and our students who have children that they need daycare for while they finish high school cannot afford traditional daycare. We don't have that available in the village. And so really we're looking for partnerships and alternatives, which is providing space here in our school district, in our classrooms, where we can support that with the help of partnerships like AVCP.
And so talk a little more about that. You had said that the school building is the only building with running piped water and sewer. If you could find someone in the community that would be willing to train into that care provider role, is there enough room at the school to even facilitate that?
We are fortunate, and what we were looking at is a non-licensed program, which you only can have 3 or 4 kids in that program, and we're just looking at, we know there's a need, and we're not completely equipped or able to fund it currently, but through forming those partnerships, we do hope that we can fund it with AVCP. But yes, we do currently have additional classrooms and are willing to do whatever we can, because we know that that benefits our students and our community and our paraprofessionals who need that care in order to continue working.
Mm-hmm. Beyond the subsistence calendar that you've adopted for the school district, Kery, how else do you support families with young children during subsistence hunting and gathering seasons?
We have a summer fish camp, and so during that fish camp, we take children, and it's usually during the time that the fish are running. And so for those 2 weeks, parents can drop off their children, and we do a full education program. We even take the kids out and teach them how to hang fish, how to cut fish, how to catch fish safely. We teach them about boating safety, water safety. And so that does allow parents time to go and take care of some of the things that they need to do to catch food for their families.
And Bridie, the same question to you. How do you help families that want to get out during subsistence, those crucial seasons, with children? Are there other programs?
Well, tribes are able to support childcare during subsistence, the same as for employment. I think subsistence can be misleading in that it sounds like it's a secondary way of living rather than primary. So it's important. We understand it's important to support families in that way also.
And Bridie, in an earlier interview, you said there needs to be a more practical approach to childcare. What did you mean about that? By that?
Well, it's a lot to go through the administrative process of becoming licensed, and in outside the hub communities, there's generally no licensed care available because it's a process, and I think it's been well documented in the news and articles that it's difficult to get through that administrative portion. So there are not a lot of providers that want to take that on, and so we're not seeing childcare being offered in the way that it could be if it were more accessible there. If maybe tribes were more of a point of contact for potential licensing.
And would you like to see that? Would you like to see a different program maybe for rural Alaska where tribes are in charge of licensing facilities in their communities?
I think that's definitely something to explore. I think that could open up childcare for a lot of children and families, tribally enrolled or not, in most every community.
What are the income eligibility requirements for families to get child care assistance, and does it differ for rural families?
Hard to say specifically, it depends on the size of the family, but there is one income scale across the state. So one income threshold to be eligible to receive child care assistance. And it's, the different costs of living across the state is well documented. So there really needs to be an income scale that makes areas with higher incomes because of cost of living eligible to receive state assistance in order to support providers and centers. And we see very few families eligible to receive state care at this time.
That does seem like an area that needs to be looked at and adjusted potentially. Kery, turning to you, you mentioned that many parents are young and that's another layer of difficulty in finding care providers. Talk about those particular challenges.
Right, we have a number of students that are raising their own students, trying to complete their high school diploma, and without any sort of childcare, we've tried to work out flexible schedules for them. We've allowed them to bring their little ones into the school building and provide a safe place where they can work independently and have their children with them. But really the answer is that they need to be able to concentrate on their studies and have a safe, reliable daycare situation for their children so that they can complete their diplomas. It's definitely a struggle. And we're really proud of them for coming and trying, and that's why we're working so hard to try to partner and find solutions to the daycare problem in our community.
We've talked about the availability of space or running water, the licensing requirements, and income eligibility. What are some other challenges for both of you? And Kery, we'll start with you, that are sort of in the rural setting that urban Alaskans aren't challenged by?
Well, I think the lack of care. There are no options. If you live in Anchorage or Fairbanks, there are going to be options. There are no options here currently unless you have family. And not everyone has family that is able or willing to watch their children. And so we have to look at other things to serve those needs. And so that's definitely one we're looking at. Also the low pay. Our paras don't make a lot of money, our students have no money, and those people that we're looking to partner with through ABCP, they're still not making very much money. And so people really have to weigh, do I want to go into the child care field and do this, or do I want to work at the store and maybe make $5 more an hour? It's definitely a concern.
Bridie, how about for you, beyond space and licensing and the things that we've already discussed, are there other challenges that you find that other Alaskans may not be dealing with?
Well, I think the general health and safety requirements that we need to use through the state-determined requirements just don't fit a lot of smaller communities. And tribes are able to be more flexible with that through their federal tribal dollars and provide training and health and safety standards that meet those needs. But that's just a degree of funding that needs more support. We need state support as well, and we need increased investment as a whole in order to support providers.
And Bridie, Kawerak has 2 licensed centers in Nome. You said overall about 100 children participate there. Tell us about what you have put together in your region and how much need there still is beyond what you've been able to provide.
Of the about 1,100 children in the region under 6, about 250 children receiving care through Head Start, either a licensed provider or tribally approved relative provider in the region. We have a pretty expansive program, so we may not be a good example of what some of the needs are. We have one of only 2 early Head Start childcare partnerships in the state to provide full day care for infants and toddlers. And that really takes a lot of work to balance that funding and to keep the doors open. We have the licensed care center after the Head Start Day for 3 to 5-year-olds and during the summer. There's Head Starts in 11 of the 15 sites throughout the region. But we've looked to tribally approved relative providers and tribally approved licensed exempt providers as a way to access care and just to be more practical in the way and where that it happens. Right now we have about 40 relative providers in the region, 5 in Nome, but they are only able to care for 1 or 2 children, no more than 4.
All right. Well, the time has gone by so quickly. Thank you both so much for being with us this evening and for the work you're doing on behalf of children in rural Alaska. Thank you. Quality childcare is an investment in the future for all of us. Children who have a strong foundation of early education, good nutrition, and healthy routines are more likely to thrive in school and contribute to their families, community, and state. That's it for this edition of Alaska Insight. Visit our website, alaskapublic.org, for breaking news and reports from our partner stations across the state. While you're there, sign up for our free daily digest so you won't miss any of Alaska's top stories of the day. Thanks for joining us this evening. I'm Lori Townsend. Good night.